Morning, ladies and gents. We have two games to go through, starting off with this Warriors one and another win for him. Very, very close to getting into that top two now, which is great for him. Obviously, trying to get ahead of Broncos and just clearly have that final, that game at home, I should say, in the finals for pretty much the whole time until they get to, hopefully, for them, Panthers at the end. Because that's probably the last thing you want is to get the Panthers in sort of the second to last round or the semi-final into the final. So these are really important games for the Warriors. Getting in that top four, it looks like it's pretty well sewn up now. But this is a game here where they were very scrappy and managed to get the job done. And Johnson was, again, the most dominant force on this side. And that really helped them get all the way through and win this one. As I said, they were very scrappy. And it was just one of those ones that just had to get over the line and win. And Johnson, the captain in fantasy, just continues to dominate. 66 he's averaging, which is just absurd. How are we even going to pick him next year? We can't, can we? He's going to be way too expensive. He's going to be like 850k like he is now, I'd say, likely coming into next year. But I did see there's a few people that captained him, so congrats to you guys. You did beat out Cleary by 5, so you'll take that, that's for sure. You would have hoped that, if you did captain him, Cleary went about 70 or something like that, which seems pretty fair against the Storm, but it wasn't to be. Let's talk about these Titans guys while we're here, because we've got Randall, we've got Aaron Clark. So if anyone was a master and grabbed them, I did say they were going to score well, but just thought it'd be just the 3 weeks, but I didn't think it'd be this well. Like when I said score well, I thought maybe like a 48 average or something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, they'll make a bit of money. They'll do all right for our squads, but the majority of our 17 are hitting a 45 plus average anyway. So it's almost not worth having them for that extra trade just for the 3 or 4 week play. But Randall has been an absolute superstar. I think they actually have to keep him on there for longer. Titans have been playing pretty well since both him and Aaron Clark have been on there for good minutes. And maybe for Randall it is 55 minutes. Maybe for Clark it's 45. And they just drop down a little bit. And then whoever gets dropped for Tino, he ends up taking that extra 30-odd minutes that is provided by Randall and Clark, because Randall's effort, his defensive acumen, obviously 46 tackles for 1 miss. He seems to be making tackle breaks, making good run meters, had a line break last week, scoring tries. Him and Clark are putting on plenty of good work, and so strange. Maybe he just wasn't fit at the start of the year, Clark, but it's happened 2 years in a row now where he's been the lock at the end of the year and has been very, very good. And is he going to tempt us in again next year when we come around to preseason? It's going to be very, very funny how that works out. Jaden Campbell with the 70, so he's just so tough to tackle. Surprisingly, only had the 6 tackle breaks. It looked like he had way more. A lot of them were just complete air swings. They actually didn't touch him at all. But 258 meters, did have that length of the field. Turnover tackle try. Geez, that'd be nice to have. I don't think any of my players that have one of them this year. No, I feel like it would come to mind straight away because they're so fun to watch and they give you a lot of points. Obviously, the intercept for the 4 points. And then you eight for your try, and then close to 100 meters. It's a good 20-odd point try without even a line break or a tackle break. So good stuff on his front. Jackson Ford, he has turned into a better player this year. The first half of the season, it was, he looks pretty solid, running the ball, with decent pace, on good angles, good lines, and I think he's just gotten much better. It also, I think, is coinciding with the fact that the Warriors are playing better. They have Metcalf on there giving him early ball. They seem to be shifting the ball better across the season. And Ford is getting the ball with about 7-8 meters of room before he gets to the defensive line. And obviously with his good hole running ability, he's getting into those gaps and hitting line breaks there and then scoring tries as well. So he's been much better on the missed tackle front the last bunch of weeks as well. He had one, I think, average week a few ago. But overall, the run meters, the defensive acumen, and then his ability to get line breaks and tries has been very impressive. And I did see a couple people actually grab him back this week, which would have worked out awesomely. And turns out we all should have held him the entirety of the year, which is crazy, because he's had some big scores in there that have been really helpful to sides. Fafita the 56. So it was a game here, which we'll speak about in a sec, with Fafita, with Boydie, with Harris, that had lots of missed tackles for some of these middle and edge kind of players, and unfortunate for Fafita that was him yesterday. Sorry, no errors, no penalties, thankfully, but the 7 missed tackles just stopped him from going big in this game. Still, also unfortunately not playing the full 80 minutes, so he did have about a 7 or 8 minute break in this one, which is a little frustrating for us owners. That you want that 80 minutes, but he does seem to struggle a little bit when he gets to about that 60-odd minute mark. It's happened the last bunch of weeks where he's got that 55 to 60 minute mark. He starts to miss a couple of tackles, and that's when they're bringing him off because he does look a bit cooked. But obviously with him, usually he's going to have one run or something like that where he gets an offload, he gets some tackle breaks, and he fixes up any of those missed tackles. He makes up for it basically. But he hasn't had the defensive stats that he had for the first half of the year, where he was making 30 odd tackles for sort of a couple of misses. The last bunch of weeks he's been a little bit lower on that front, missing a few more, and hasn't had really the attacking stats apart from last week. So a 56 he'll cop. It's not amazing. It's just about par, I'd say, for him. Obviously where he's priced at, it's very close to that number, which is cool. For Blake there, 52 for him in his 54 minutes. So no negatives in this front. 22 tackles only, again, given they had plenty of ball. You see a lot of tackles from the middles in the Titans. 46 for Randall, 40 for Clark, 40 for Liu there as well. But Fanua Blake, 52. If you grabbed him over Munster, over DCE, it worked out well. If you grabbed him over Nat Butcher as well, you'll take the 52. No try in this one. A little bit lower minutes, 54. So you can look at that and go, oh, well, that's frustrating. But he almost had a PPM of 1, and there will be other games where he does play bigger minutes. He had Tohu Harris at 72 in this one. If they are smashing teams, I'd imagine Tohu gets back into the 60s. But yeah, very, very interesting on that front. The minutes-wise for these Warriors players when you got Jazz Tavanga back and look good. Look good in his first stint back. Tanner Boyd, 51. So he had a lovely line break there. It was a worry that he'd done his shoulder or his collarbone. Turns out it probably just a bit of a burner when he landed on the ground there, thankfully for him and his season and his body, obviously. But 8 missed tackles for him. Did cook him a little bit, but across the board everywhere else, he was involved in everything. He had the couple of forced dropouts. He kicked plenty in this one. I said he had the line break there. Tackled 26, obviously, plus 10 in that sense. Everything kind of worked out all right for Tanner in the end. He ended up with a 51, so we're worried for him. I think he was on, actually, apparently it got into about 40. I thought he was on 30 at the time, but they hadn't updated his stats for that line break, but he was on 40 at the time, so it wouldn't have been a travesty if he did go off injured in that part of the game. Tohu Harris there, 46 for him. So this reminds me of, well, he didn't score as many, but it reminds me of a couple of those games that Cam Murray's had this year when I owned him at the start, and then these last couple of this last game especially for him, where things weren't going all that great for him, missing a few tackles and the like, and then scoring a try near the end just bumps his scoring back up. For Tohu, it was about a 13 or 14 point play with the 13 point play with the run meters there. No tackle breaks, just had the line break and the try. Basically, he obviously went over untouched, so he was on 30 odd at that time and basically just got that. But the 8 missed tackles is where he went wrong. So if he drops that down to 4 and adds that to his tally, he's got 40 made, 4 misses, and that's a massive turnaround of 12 points. So he'd be on 58 if that was the case with that try. Or as I said, you take the try off and he's a mid-40s guy for this game. So really, really out of the ordinary and out of character for Tohu to be missing that many tackles. So there's definitely a worry about his health. Even when they've had a bye, it hasn't really helped him the next week. So if you're holding him, I think he's going to be a looper. Obviously, he's going to cover week to week in that midsection, especially when we have guys like Payne Haas out, Max King this week, Cam Murray's going to be out in 26. So he'll be playing definitely in a bunch of weeks, but then you can probably loop him in others just because he doesn't seem himself, obviously, and then minutes are a little bit up and down at the moment as well. So keep that in mind with him. Dallin got a try and a try assist, which was nice if you have him. I don't think many do. Tuapiki ended up coming in. So Chance went down with the injury. We'll get to that all in a sec. But Tang got 31. So he will likely play next week with Chance being out. He's had multiple concussions this year. I think the last one was about 3 months ago. So hopefully Chance is okay. We do love him on the show. Verrills at lower minutes there at 41. So using Randall a fair bit through that middle. And then when Fafita ended up coming off, Randall ended up switching to that left edge for a bit as well. So the versatile man doing his thing. Metcalf 27. Again, two weeks in a row now hasn't been perfect. He slightly overran that pass, although he should have went back to Johnson on the right side, but didn't. So that would have bumped up his scoring a little bit into the mid to high 30s. But yeah, he's been great for this side. He hasn't had his 2 best weeks, but he obviously had moments in this where he got that lovely line break and helped them score on the back of that, which was good. Phil Sami 20 for him. Yeah, just a bit of a shocker, unfortunately. These wingers, these wing fullback centers, kind of outside backs here, can sometimes have those weeks. So frustrating for owners of him. Nick Corey, 43 in this one. And then we'll get to, Chan's obviously getting hit in the head by a shoulder of Mo Fotuaika, and that's coincided with him getting sent off, which was the second one in a row. So we had one the night before with Nathan Brown in his first minute on the park, and then Fodawaker getting sent off in this one. And the big thing here was the one earlier on that they didn't end up sending to the sin bin. It then proceeded to this one not long after, where it was like, nah, another whack in the head, you're off. So yeah, you'd think if this one's a send off, the other one would have been a sin bin, but I'm not sure how exactly they're adjudicating those ones there. But very frustrating for I think about 5% of people that do own Mofo. Very, very tough scenes there of a night like that when he's on he was doing okay. He was on like 13 in 17 minutes, not doing too bad, and then gets sent off there. So not great on that front. Yeah, Tavanga, his minutes will go up as well, so that's something to think about with Tohu and also Adam Fanua-Blake, and then Chansey. Yeah, the 11 off 17. You'll miss him next week as well, so up to you if you want to hold or sell. I think that's completely fine. If you want him for the back end, like if you've got a Latrell or something like that and you need some cover, then that could work well. All right, Panthers v Storm. I am so worried for my two Manly guys next week in Garrick and DCE. Hopefully they can kind of ambush them or something, because Manly were very bad, and I think they'll get done by 40. They lost to Roosters very comfortably. I think they'll get done by 40 by the Panthers, and I'm not expecting big scores from my two boys. So this was the game for Munster against the Panthers, DC next week against the Panthers, that we were going to worry about. And unfortunately, they have not updated the scores here, which is frustrating, which seems to be the case for the Storm games at the moment. So Cleary ended up with 91, and it was just a game about just going about his business. He ended up with 3 turnover tackles. There's one right at the end of the game too, which is funny. I think he might end up with a third forced drop out. I can't remember what the extra stat they gave him there, but 2 tries, assists, 5 goals, just a little bit across the park. No missed tackles in this one, so he's back to making 20, which just shows that he's by far and away the clearest captaincy option from here on in. Obviously, SJ has something to say about that, but for safety, Cleary is a man. He didn't have to score 2 tries, get 2 try assists like Johnson did to get a similar score. Brian To'o is obviously going to start really developing into a keeper level talent again now that Cleary's back and they're very much going right. They're giving him plenty of early ball. Hosking even threw one behind him, which would have helped him get another try, which didn't end up happening, but he made up for it a little bit later. Isaiah Yeo ended up at 66, guys, so yeah, really good score for him. He looked a little bit low. He was 23 at halftime and then picked up, obviously, another 43 in the second half, and it's just basically through his work ethic. 214 meters, ridiculous. 40 tackles. Again, a game where they won by 20, and there's like 6-7 minutes to go, and they take off all these other guys. Sorensen gets a rest, which is fair enough, but all these other guys that end up going off before Isaiah Yeo, they actually played their middles plenty of minutes. So Kenny played 74 there. Fish Harris played 54. Sorensen the 72 on the edge. Martin played decent minutes as well. Wherever Martin is, we'll get to him. Anyway, so they still can't give him a rest. It's just me being sad because I don't own him. But if you could, and I wanted to, straight swap JDB to Isaiah Yeo. There's a lot of people that did it, and well done to you with 66. Sorensen unfortunately goes down to 52. So still a great score, but you would have obviously hoped that he played the full 80 and got a mid to higher 50s. But yeah, when he's priced at 691, Jewel there for you. Get some easy offloads sometimes as well. He was great. Harry Grant goes down to 54, I believe, and a lot of defense for him. A couple offloads in there, 3 penalties, 2 errors. Just again, not his game. Storm boys struggled a little bit. The interesting thing we'll get to now with Munster, he did enough at 46, I believe. So I do think at the time, I was like, damn it, he got a turnover tackle. They kind of made a break and he had one little play at the ball and he dropped it. They put it down as a missed tackle when it was actually going to be a turnover tackle. So I was like, I think that's a 6-point swing from the 37 or whatever. They said 37 on the NRL app. So 36, there's 42, and they've ended up with 46 there. I think they took 2 missed tackles off him. And obviously gave him the turnover tackle as well. So a nice 8-point swing for Munster. But there was a point to this story. Attacking-wise, they very much went to Jonah Pezzett for kicking, which was interesting. So he ended up at 274, and Munster got all his kicks late. So he was at about 45 kick meters until the last sort of 10 or so minutes. So he picked him up there, and they didn't really go to him as much as they would have thought. And when he did get it, he didn't run very much. So you would have thought, just like the Panthers do with Jerome Luai on their left, you would have thought that he would run the footy a bit more and just try and break up this amazing Penrith defense, but it just didn't happen. So hopefully for Munster, that 46 is his low for the rest of the year, and he goes on to bigger things. So thankfully for me, I did go DCE, so Munster only beat him by 4 in the end. But as I said, DCE has to play the Panthers next week. So that's a bit of a worry. And I just heard some news on Jerome Hughes that Bellamy said they're not actually exactly sure what's going on, and it might be a little bit more of a multi-week absence rather than just the 1 week. So that's just something to think about and stress about, obviously. There's Martin, sorry. 70 minutes for him. So again, big minutes for the left end, right edge. Jerome Luai, 56. He's come on leaps and bounds this last sort of 6 weeks or so with a 56 here as well. So scoring an easy try. He's getting a lot of tackle breaks. He seems to be defending okay, running the footy plenty, getting some turnover tackles as well. So good stuff with him as well. He's just had a really, really good month or so. If you were to jump on pretty cheap around that 500k mark, he's been averaging great. Liam Martin, the 55 for him. So, great score as well. Hasn't been doing it like people thought he would. He's still been hitting around that 40 average or less, but a much better game for him with good attacking stats. Obviously, tackle breaks and offloads. Crichton was really solid with the 49. Hosking at centre, and with 2 try assists, just getting him on to top. Oh, it should have been 3. So he worked well. If he's still holding him, I doubt there's many. What about Fisher Harris? It looks like he's playing much better footy since everyone that owned him in fantasy jumped off and got off his back and just let him roam free. He's been great again, so of course. But it did look remember he had that bit of a knee problem. He just seems to be running absolutely free at the moment. He's running hard into that defense, that's for sure. We spoke about Munster there. And then we've got Eli Katoa, so he's back with a 33-minute effort. I think the good news with this for Katoa is that we might be able to grab him fairly cheap next year. So let's look to that for him, probably around that 500k mark, I'd say. Close to where he started. He was about a 450 at the beginning of last year, so hopefully he can be somewhere around that price again if he continues to stay on the bench, which I think they'll get him back to the start. But it's interesting what they're doing with Katoa with 33 minutes, Nelson with 37. Pretty low across the board there. Seve did his job. It was fun to see that little matchup. What about he gets past Crichton, Jarcy ends up on the ground. He gets up that little bit and they're like, yep, all right, you're going over the sideline. It's like, damn it. You think you're doing a good thing about getting up and keep going, but in those scenarios, you just need to stay on the ground because they love that, that's for sure. So you can see the passion that the Panthers play with. It's not like, you guys are too easy. It's like, no, we're going to work hard, and when we beat you, we're going to get excited. So fair play to them. All right, the big finish here is it's Dylan Edwards. So I think he ended up at 19, which is very frustrating for owners of Dylan. What about the fall from grace? I got very lucky. I almost grabbed him. He looked amazing in that first 12 rounds. I almost grabbed him at about that 800k mark, and I know a bunch of people do. And my deepest sympathies go out to you guys because you couldn't predict this. He has been like a mid-40s to 47, like he's averaging now across his career, especially with the Panthers there. But the start of the season, he was a 54 guy, and if he dropped down to a 48-50, you'd say fair play. Understand that he hasn't averaged that over his career, but for him to drop down and just hit 20s on a regular basis, unheard of and very, very upsetting for those that do own him. Sonny Luke as well. Break even's probably like 1,000 with the amount of low minute games that he gets. But that's the Friday night update, guys. 3 games today. Adam Reynolds is out of the Broncos one, so that puts a little bit of a dampener on it. I am tipping the Cowboys. I expect to bounce back at home. And I wish you guys all the best of luck in your 3 games on Saturday.